listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft, the people who play it. Today is August 31st, 2021, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. Today I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, we have a slammed show this week. Lots going on.
Oh my goodness, what a huge week for WoW news. We got some juicy hotfixes that came down super last minute last night on top of all the stuff we knew we were going to be covering today. It feels like it almost feels like Team 2's waking up, from some kind of a slumber or something. Like things are really starting to move. We're getting some changes that feel like they should have come in 4 months into Shadowlands, right? And now they're hotfixing stuff in. We got a big patch to look forward to. It's pretty exciting. I mean, is it going to change hearts and minds? Probably not. I think people kind of have their mind made up about Shadowlands or maybe WoW in general, one way or the other. But there's a lot of people still playing and enjoying the game for, any number of reasons. And I think it certainly behooves Team 2 to keep making the game better and more fun to play. And I think they're kind of zeroing in on some of the stuff that has been the most painful for people.
Yeah, I think they're doing like I agree with you. I stumbled around a bit there because I agree with you that I think they're waking up. I think it's time to go. They basically 9.1.5 is going to hit the PTR soon. And when it does, there's going to be a whole bunch of data mining that happens. And along with that, I'm sure there's a lot of things that want to get done before that happens. So they're starting to announce things. They're starting to get more hotfixes going into the game to resolve some of the long-term issues. And yeah, it's pretty exciting to see all this going on. But before we dive into Warcraft stuff, what would you like to talk about this past week?
Well, let's check in with a better ABK.
Sure.
Because, of course, the only way we're going to get cool stuff to play under the Blizzard banner is if the people working there are supported. Unfortunately, there's really not much to report this week in terms of management response. They still haven't really formally or informally or appreciably responded to the employees' demands. We're now a month plus from the lawsuit being publicized, from the walkout that the employees organized. You're starting to see some things kind of percolate around maybe additional direct employee action, or maybe maybe saying hi to the board of directors of Activision Blizzard, the people who decide who sits on the C-suite. But nothing to report from official channels from a better ABK on that front. The big news this week that came, as part of this kind of collective effort to kind of clean house at Blizzard as best that the employees there can, is Team 4, the Overwatch team, announced that they're renaming the McCree character. Obviously, that character was named after Jesse McCree, who is somebody who recently, a longtime employee who recently left, and no public statements have been made, but we can only assume it's because they were, one of the people that was creating a toxic work environment. Potentially, maybe it's somebody who was responsible for elements of the lawsuit. We don't know. I don't want to speculate too much because there's been no public information about it. But we knew that, Jesse McCree was potentially implicated here from other media reporting, and then Blizzard confirmed that they let him go. Obviously, the McCree character was named after this person, which probably wasn't a great idea in hindsight. And I wouldn't be surprised if going forward that, after all the NPCs that were named after Alex Afrasiabi, for example, like I think Blizzard is probably just going to stop doing this as a general rule. And I think that's probably a good idea. But yeah, does this solve every problem in the universe of Activision Blizzard King? Of course not. But this is something that the employees have control over. It's got to be a lot of work, right? So you have to come up with a decent name that you think the team is happy with and that's going to play well. And then you have to replace a character's name everywhere it appears, in every language that it's localized in all games and other consumer products that you've released featuring the character. It is actually a daunting amount of work, I think, to make it stick. And yeah, I mean, I applaud them. I think the employees showing solidarity and showing that they're not going to tolerate this kind of thing in the games themselves and the products is awesome. I think it continues to send a message to the customers, us, the players, and also to management. I just hope that management starts actually, taking some action here to improve conditions for the people making the games that we like.
Yeah, it is a little frustrating that we're this far in and it doesn't feel like there's been a lot of progress for the actual employees themselves. But I guess we just have to stay strong and stay hopeful that we're going to see some stuff soon. I think identifying the troublemakers and sort of filtering them out is a great first step, but it's still not answering the demands. And the demands are what we sort of want to see progress on. What they're basically doing right now is protecting themselves by getting these people out so they don't see future issues and they don't get as much of a backlash from social media, investors, etc. But the demands are what we kind of want to see some progress on. So I'm hoping that comes up soon. This past week, I actually was able to, I had the honor of joining Integrity for their raids on Tuesday and Wednesday, which was a lot of fun. So thank you very much for having me along.
Of course, man. It was nice having you back along with the team for the first time in a few years.
It's been 4 years. It's crazy. I couldn't believe
it's
it.
weird. It doesn't seem like that long, right? But it really flies, know? Yeah, it's a fun. Sanctum's a fun raid. It's fun to just kind of chill. And most of the bosses, you just kind of fight them and do the dance and they die. And then you get stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I had a good time with that on Tuesday, Wednesday. Outside of that, I didn't actually play a lot of World of Warcraft. I'm sort of letting myself, I guess, get centered more in terms of my gaming and figure out what exactly I'm wanting to do going forward, whether it's Mythic Grading or what it is. I had several people reach out to me this past week from Alliance specific Mythic Raid teams, not necessarily just about joining them, but also about potentially raising the conversation on the show a little bit, or maybe doing a discussion episode or something about the rapidly dwindling Alliance Mythic raiding scene. That raiding scene, for the past, I guess, since early BFA has been really disappearing and at a fairly rapid rate, and it's accelerated inside Shadowlands, and Shadowlands isn't quite as well received in that scene. And yeah, so there's a few people now who I know are starting up Reddit posts and other things to try and raise a little bit of, at least get it in Blizz's face a little bit more that you won't see Alliance Mythic raiding teams for that are anywhere near competitive. And by competitive, I mean top 250 in the world kind of range. At this pace, by the end of the expansion, they'll be filtered out. So it's a concern. I love Alliance. I think it's great. I think the competitive raid scene's a lot of fun, and doing both those things together isn't something that is becoming very feasible. There's the few teams that remain there's a lot of consideration going Horde. A lot of them are falling apart, and it'll be interesting to see what happens towards the end of the expansion. So yeah, there's a lot of conversation on my mind when it comes to that kind of thing, because if I do choose to get back into the scene, will it be a Horde side thing or not? I haven't really decided. So we'll figure that out down the line. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Alliance raiding and whether or not Blizz can actually do anything to at least stem the flow of teams that are collapsing and swapping and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's just the inertia, man. I think it was kind of ignored for so long that it's just very hard to turn it around. And Hall of Fame was obviously not the carrot at the end of the stick that they were maybe hoping for. Obviously Hall of Fame is prestigious, it's cool, but it's not making people reconsider their faction choices. People would rather be, top 400 Horde than top 100 Alliance. I doubt that the racials make that much of a tuning difference where it's this becomes unclearable content. You need this edge in order to do this, but it's just stuff kind of calcifies, right? Maybe at one point in time it was a lot more beneficial. I think the difference was a bit more stark than it is now. And over time, it's just okay, so people started migrating there, and then the Horde migration just continues, and it never really balances out. And now, there's not as many people engaged in Shadowlands as, we've had maybe in recent memory. and all that stuff becomes even that much more pronounced. So I don't know, maybe like some kind of cosmetics or something for a Hall of Fame type reward. You know, something really cool, like a really unique mount or transmog set or something. For
Yeah, maybe.
The tuning. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think the tuning and the racial tuning is that big of a factor, right? At this point, it's more just structural and social.
Well, yeah, so the structural and social for sure, because it's easier to recruit on Horde side because there's more players in that realm of gameplay who are interested in that kind of time commitment, that kind of skill level and performance. So it's easier to recruit, right? You have a much larger pool to pull from, even if you're in a situation where you're like, you know what, we have 3 people leaving, we need to fill those 3 spots. We need to find 3 people. You can find 3 people fairly easily to fill those 3 spots who aren't going to massively be carried on your team or something like that, right? You don't have to like completely gear them or something like that. There tend to be that many more floating around, so it's just easier to maintain. Outside of raiding the Mythic Plus scene, it's easier to find groups on a general basis that are fairly consistent in performance. I wouldn't say that it's, from my experience playing Horde and playing Alliance inside the Mythic Plus scene, it isn't like a dramatic difference for me, but it is one of those cases where I open it up and I search for 15s, and there's a lot more people posting keys on Horde side than there are in Alliance. So your chances of finding a group are better when it sort of boils down to it. But I think the largest factor for me is when you look at the racials that you sort of talked about, Blizzard isn't doing themselves any favors, right? Like what you were talking about early on, it being a more stark difference, was Berserking used to just be like amazing as a racial, and so did the Orc racial, and it just sort of meant that people were gravitating towards Horde, and that started the large switch. Even with Blood Elf racial, when it used to AoE silence, you could use that inside a lot of raids.
That was really good.
That was a really big one. The Torrent Stomp for an AoE stun was a really big one as well. So there were a few racials that were fairly prominent and defined. And yes, that is not as prominent as it was before. But every now and then, Blizzard doesn't do themselves favors and designs a fight like Painsmith, where Goblin is like substantially better than not having Goblin, especially for classes who don't play a covenant that allow them to transport, like a Necrolord, for example. So being a Goblin Necrolord then let you actually get around the spike balls when they designed that fight initially, and that was certainly a motivator for that. Same thing happened with Jaina in the Mythic Jaina fight. If you were a troll for a period of time before Blizzard changed it, her actual debuff, her wins debuff that stacked on players would drop off because I think it was Zandalari Troll racial made the duration of debuffs on you 1 second less. So that 1 second was the difference in getting these resets. So like those sorts of things seems to consistently sort of come up on Horde side and don't seem to come up ever on Alliance side. The only time we saw
well, they do, but like it's actually dwarves and dark iron dwarves, you can't racial off this bleed. And
that's what I was about to mention. Yeah, the only time it did come up as a debate was in Castle Nathria, where people were thinking about raiding Alliance because of Stone Legion generals and the bleed on Stone Legion generals. And turns out that they said, no, every other bleed except that bleed is one that you can racial off, which meant that there was then no advantage whatsoever to playing those classes on that fight. And since penultimate fights tend to be the most challenging fights, with the exception clearly of this tier, it means that that wasn't an encouragement for players. So I'm with you. I'd be interested to see if there was like a mount and some cosmetic armor or weapons or something that could sort of sway people into, you know what, I really want to get Hall of Fame. But if we continue to see this trend, we're going to see 300 or 400 or 400 plus Horde side teams clear the raid before the first 100 Alliance have, right? And it's like, well, then what is your point of this cross-realm mythic sort of thing that you're doing? If it means that cross-realm mythic is still delayed by so long because you have to wait until, the 500 plus world, or actually not even world, 500 plus US teams manage to actually clear through the raid before that unlocks. And how much of the selling that happened with last year is going to happen again, where you have essentially a team clearing the raid, and then disbanding from that guild, starting a new guild, bringing in more people who are paying them real money, clearing the raid again to get those people achievements and whatnot, disbanding the guild, forming a new guild, like, and doing that, where we saw multiple clears of the raid by the same people, taking up spots in the Hall of Fame. And so Blizzard had to go through and purge out all of these clears, which meant that people's ranks moved by almost 20 spaces once they'd filtered all the teams out. So yeah, it's a problem, and it's a growing problem. So I want to take a moment here at the top to highlight that, because I felt like that was something that was very present in all of the conversations around Warcraft I was having outside of the game this past week. So just wanted to bring that up. But as far as the actual playing the game last week, did you get in any M+ stuff last week?
Oh yeah, actually last week was a great week. I mean, it was slow, but it was easy. You had Fort and Spiteful, so you had the ghosts and everything, and you skip them where you can, but there's certain instances where you just have to stand there and kill them. You're stuck in combat, so some other part of the dungeon doesn't trigger or whatever. But so I wasn't. I was like not as comfortable on timers as I would have liked to have been, but I don't think I had any issues timing anything. And at this point, my kind of regular group is pretty comfortable with 17s, so I'm up above 2100. I'm like 2115 rating, which is pretty nice. I mean, the only reason I guess I really care is because pushing rating gets you bonus valor. You valor cap for doing less stuff, and you have the valor to spend earlier, so it's pretty nice. I don't know if we're going to be clearing 20s in time by the end of this season, but just having little goals, just going to nudge forward every week feels really good. And speaking of that, I'm very close to having my main spec conduits maxed out. I think I have 3 left to do. I haven't done Torghast yet since reset, so if I can flawless one, I should get one more from that. So just a couple more days of really, going ham on Korthia to get the research, and then I think I'm just gonna chill for the off spec stuff. Like I'll take it as it comes. I don't play off spec at all at this point. Like I've never even like set up my Fury and Arm stuff really in this expansion and went out and used it. So like to fill up the UI, that's cool, but I'm never really going to use it. So it doesn't seem worth my time to put the effort in. Even though, I mean, I've enjoyed the process. I think, the longer tail grind in this patch to get the character power stuff feels much better than season 1, than doing the Stygia thing in the Maw for, maybe 1 upgrade a week or something. This is not that, so that's cool. Really, the big thing for us this week was actually getting a real look at Heroic Sylvanas. We get to phase 3, I think, 1 time, and we're still kind of learning the dance. We're having problems with positioning on the bridges because I think people are just a little too. They're like too shell shocked because it's the pace is just a little bit different and it's more dangerous, or from normal mode I'm talking about, or they're just not quite understanding the timing yet. So darkness is really bad. The healing debuff is severe, so people kind of have this tendency to sort of safely space out along the platform, and then there's no way to get out of the darkness circle. So we got to clean up the phase 2 dance, and I think we'll be moving along before too much longer. So it feels really great. I think we've had a really nice smooth progression curve this year. This week, it's a bit of a shortened raid week because of the holiday in the US. So we got 2 nights to see what we could do in heroic raid, and we'll go from there. The cool thing is this week too, we'll unlock the skip, so we could, if we don't finish Prague this week, then next week we could skip and just get some KT loot out and spend some more time.
Cool. Well, with that, let's jump into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, this week is Wrath of the Lich King Timewalking, meaning the Sign of the Scourge is up, which basically means that Wrath of the Lich King reputation gains from combat and quests are increased by 50%. And of course, there are some Timewalking dungeons that you can explore at level 50. That is the Ankret, the Old Kingdom, Gundrak, Halls of Lightning, the Nexus, Utgard Pinnacle, Pit of Sauron are all dungeons that you can sort of dive into. There's a quest you can pick up in Oribos to complete 5 of these. If you do, you get yourself a cache of normal Sanctum of Domination loot. The other thing is the loot that drops out of these dungeons is 184 eye level, and the vendor's selling 178. Still pretty low, but it's a starting point. And if you're someone who's leveling up a character through time walking, which is certainly an option that you can do, then you can certainly take advantage of getting some loot right away. 184 isn't bad as walking out of max level dungeons at. So yeah, that's something you should check out.
Yeah, seriously. Bring along a friend who's max level with the same armor class and just have them funnel you everything that that they get as you're leveling up.
Yeah. We also have Ulduar Time Walking back. It drops 226 versions of Ulduar loot for max level characters. Of course, the old achievement for 10s and 25 mans have been consolidated together, and you can complete those achievements in Time Walking if you're looking for something fun to do with the raid team this week. The thing that I always remember about this was how incredibly strong the 226 versions of trinkets were from Ulduar Time Walking back when Castle Nathria was just getting going, and we had this roll around the last time this came around. Because everyone wanted to get in there and get themselves trinkets because they could roll with sockets in them and stuff too. So it was very strong. A lot of the procs were strong. So there's still some decent loot out of there if you're someone who's trying to gear up a character. It's something you can look at doing too. The world boss for the week is Nurgash Muckformed. It's the big dredger in Revendreth, who drops plate, hands, mail, feet, leather, waist, cloth, shoulders, and wrists, as well as a verse crit neck, all at 207 eye level. You can also get your Covenant ability conduits off of the world bosses, so you want to be sure you're knocking them out to see if you can get those Covenant ability conduits, if there's something you still need. And what memories is old Nurgash dropping for us?
So Nurgash, he's your warlock friend. He's got Erratic Felcor and Azukir's Madness for warlocks and Frenzied Monstrosity for DKs. So if you got a DK or a warlock and you don't know all your memories yet, make sure you don't forget to do Nurgash this week and get your 500 Anima while you're out there.
Cool. Yeah, the other way to get 500 Anima is to knock out Morgeth, the Tormentor of the Damned. You could also talk him out because you could have quite the long conversation. This guy's got so much health. He also drops 200 eye-level conduits, the Adaptive Armor Fragment and Condensed Animosphere, if you haven't gotten those from your world quests yet, down there in Korthia. He also drops the Shard of Rev, which is the only way to get this Blood Leech Shard outside of killing Sylvanas. So it's a good one to try and get off of this world boss if you don't have it yet. He drops 233 eye-level gear, cloth wrists and legs, leather hands and waist, mail hands and feet, plate, waist and legs, and a mastery trinket with a main stat proc. So be sure you head out there into, oh man, what's that? It starts with a D. It's Desmoteron. Desmoteron. Yes. And kill off this world boss. If you're in Oribos, don't forget to pick up your dungeon quests. This week is Sanguine Depths and The Other Side. And your PvP quests, which are random BGs and rated BGs. That's something you're looking at doing. This week in Torghast is Fractured Chambers and Mort Regar. So if you're trying to avoid having to do some pain in the butt stuff, you might want to avoid Mort Regar. It's not super fun to run. But you do want to try and complete Torghast for that rank 5 legendary material that you need, your soul cinders, and you can get out there and farm in Korthia. So pick up that stuff too. There's a few different ways to get legendary materials, which is great. PvP Brawl this week is Warsong. Is it Warsong Scramble? It's Warsong Scramble week again? Man, these things roll around fast.
I think we just now that they're every week, it's a little bit weird. But the one we just had was the Deep Six, right? So Warsong is in that rotation. This is not that. This is just Warsong.
Yeah. So this is Warsong Scramble, where it's basically Warsong Gulch with modified rules. And it's whoever captures 10 flags first. You can capture flags even though the flag hasn't been returned to your base. And it's whatever team can capture 10 flags first. So the scramble is that you basically have 2 dedicated flag runners who just run nonstop. And it's whoever can get them all first. So check that out if that's something you're looking at doing. You can get the Something Different quest the moment you queue in, and that means if you win, you get yourself some conquest, some honor, and some marks of honor. Those marks of honor I really like because I trade them for transmog all the time. So if you haven't picked up all of the PvP transmogs for all of the expansions, you can certainly go back and collect a lot of them. Obviously, some of the more high-end elite stuff actually requires some rating, but you, in general, can get a lot of transmog just from getting those marks of honor. Mythic plus affixes for the week. We have Tyrannical, Inspiring, and Quaking, meaning that boss enemies have 30% more health, and them and their minions inflict 15% increased damage. And some non-boss enemies have an inspiring presence that strengthens their allies. And quaking periodically, all players emit a shockwave, inflicting damage and interrupting nearby allies. So inspiring basically is the non-CC aura, is what this is. So you can actually CC an inspiring mob. You cannot CC the mobs that are around the inspiring mob unless they are far enough away from it that the aura drops off. So often when you're dealing with inspiring, you're wanting to actually just CC the inspired mob, pull everything else, leave that inspired mob back there on its own, and deal with the rest of the mobs far away from the inspired mob, so you can actually CC them, interrupt them, do those sorts of things, and then kill the inspired mob on its own. That is the safe way to go through this. Obviously, there's going to be some packs where inspiring just isn't as effective, or you have cooldowns up, so you're going to burn through everything anyways. But just be aware of how that effect works and how to sort of counterplay it with your roots and snares and polymorphs and all that kind of stuff that you can throw on that inspired mob to get them out of the group and keep them out of the group so you can CC stuff. Quaking, just, don't stand on top of each other. It's a little bit trickier inside the more tight corridor spaces. Don't be casting when the circle finishes erupting, because it will interrupt you. But otherwise, just don't overlap the little circles, and it's a fairly non-affix, which is great. I certainly enjoy it. The only time it bothers me is when I'm eating food or when I'm trying to res somebody, because those are the two times you're going to get quaking the most often. Is you're in the middle of trying to res someone and quaking starts happening, so you have to stop and start the res again, which inevitably is in the last quarter of a second of the res. So you actually have to do a full 6 second.
You're trying to race it. You're like, is this going to go off before the quake does?
Yep. Overall, it's a great week. I think inspiring can be a little tricky for some folks. Tyrannical is going to make some bosses a little bit harder, but quaking not really syncing up with anything, inspiring not really syncing up with anything. I think it's a good week. I like when they're not symbiotic.
I think this is a great week, man. I mean, I'm going to say the same thing I say every other week, which is that tyrannical can be a speed bump. There can just be a brick wall where it's like, okay, at this keystone rank, our group cannot kill this boss, therefore we cannot complete the dungeon. But as long as you're below that threshold, then I think this week is fantastic. I mean, you have to do tyrannical weeks for score. You can't just farm, easy fort weeks to get Keystone Master, right? Not how the system works anymore. But I think, the combos we've seen this season have been really friendly. Inspiring, yeah, it can certainly be dangerous, but when the mobs aren't fortified, then you can probably kill the inspiring mob pretty quickly before the stuff that's preventing you from interrupting and CCing and whatever really ramps up and becomes a problem. Plus, it's going to take longer for that ramp to happen anyway because they're not starting at that fortified floor. So, yeah, quaking, I think, is more or less a non-affix unless, there's a couple instances, last boss of Sanguine Depths, for example, where you got to get everybody into a tight area. I mean, you can still space out, I think, enough inside that bubble that your quakes don't have to overlap. But, quaking can be kind of sticky here and there, but since they changed it so it only does damage if you're in somebody else's circle, it's just been much easier to deal with. You have to be aware of spacing, but I find meta seems to be, 1 melee and 2 range for the most part in Mythic Plus. It seems to be working pretty well with this expansion, so people are going to be able to move out of the way quickly anyway. I think this is going to be another really good week to get rating, get KSM done or prog on KSM if you don't have it yet this season, and just keep moving up the ranks. I mean, what else could you really ask for in a tyrannical week, right? The bosses are going to be hard, but the trash is going to die.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing we have going on this week is Trial of Style. It started today, so if you're someone who wants to hop in and do some Trial of Style, it's running for the next few days. Be sure that you are queuing up for the 6-player scenario. You can queue up with some friends if you want. Basically, contestants will have 2 minutes to create a transmog set from their collection based on themes that are presented inside of the scenario. 2 players will be on the stage at a time, and they'll be striking poses and flexing and that kind of fun stuff. And the remaining 4 will then vote on who has managed to capture the theme the best. And you sort of work your way through everybody, and then at the end, the top 3 are all chosen. Rewards are given out based off of what ranking people ended up at, and you get these tokens that you can then spend at a vendor to buy transmogs. So be sure that you're taking advantage of that and having a good time with the Trial of Style. This also means that there's free transmog and barbershops for the duration of this event, which means if you're someone who wants to change it up a little bit on your character. You don't have to worry about gold or anything like that. You just sort of hop in the chair and change up your character how you will, as well as if you're transmogging your gear, you can do that as well for free. So lots of fun this week with Trial of Style. Be sure you're taking advantage of it.
Yeah, we got all the new character customization stuff in 9.0. So this is, I guess, well, no, this is the first time we've had Trial of Style since then, right? Because 9.0 came in. We get Trial of Style in... Oh, no, I guess we had it in March. So this is the second time we've had it since then. It's every 6 months. But yeah, super fun event. If you've never done it, you really need to get some friends together and check it out. You'll have a great time. Sit in voice chat and help everybody get a first place so they get the lucky shirt or whatever it's called, and get your Mog sets. It's awesome. It only happens twice a year. Yeah, if you've never, like, you should really give it a look.
Yeah. The other thing I want to highlight is Darkmoon Fair starts up on September 5th. That's this coming Sunday. So be sure that you are heading down to the Darkmoon Fair. You're getting your pet battle tokens. You're getting your chance at getting the guitar and all that kind of fun stuff out of the mosh pits that are there, and all the bands that you can watch. You're doing your races to get your achievements. You're getting a chance at your Moonfang pet and your Darkmoon rabbit potentially. You are getting your reputation buff and your experience buff. You're leveling up your professions. And one of the things I wanted to highlight that often gets forgotten until after Darkmoon Fair has gone away is you can buy the Inky Black potions from Rana Greenteeth during Darkmoon Fair. Go in there, stock up on those Inky Blacks, so when you're out there in Bastion or you're running the dungeons out there, you can drink an Inky Black potion and see all of the really cool stuff that you can only see when that's going on. It's very cool. That whole zone is very cool with Inky Black potions, so I would recommend paying a visit to the fair, even if it's just to stock up on a supply of them. I'm sure there's a market for them. When you look on the auction house, there's people who sell them regularly. I'm sure they're marked up fairly high depending on what server you're on. So yeah, that's another, gold making thing you could probably do if you wanted to. Take advantage of Darkmoon Fair while it's here. Okay, we got a developer update, and we covered a little bit of this during our patron call-in show. So if you're someone who did not listen to that show yet, I know it came out earlier today, but we will recap some of what's going on and talk a little bit more about our opinions about what's going on. So we basically got a developer update that said, here's the wish list of things that we are putting into 9.1.5. And they also announced that the Overlords of Outland is coming soon for Classic, if that's something you're looking forward to, which I imagine a lot of people are, because it's Serpent Shrine Serpent Shrine Cavern. Man, the Tavern one would be cool, though. I'd be down for a Naga bar.
That's a different thing, yeah.
That'd be cool. Tempest Keep, which is the I raid, as well as a bunch of Reputation, some tier 5 class sets, which were some of the strongest ones out there. You got Guild Banks coming in, the group browser coming in. It's like Arena Bulletin Board is happening. Anyways, modern WoW, we get Legion Timewalking with Mythic Plus. This is Timewalking with Mythic Plus. So keep that in mind. And one of the things that I highlighted that I wanted to highlight again, Legion Legendaries. You still got them? They kicking around a bank somewhere? You might want to try equipping those things during Legion Timewalking for Mythic Plus. And there's no telling whether or not our current legendaries will work or not. You might be able to wear 3 legendaries while you're rolling around back in Legion. That'd be kind of cool.
I love that they're doing this. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of gimmicky. Like, I think you see this and your mind goes to like, oh, well, can I do like plus 15s and then get, vault rewards or whatever? I think I can't see it being that robust. I think it's going to be super fun and cool. I mean, Legion was a great expansion. Some of those dungeons were really fantastic. And, they'll probably just pepper in some affixes and it'll be time walking as we know it with a little bit of a twist. But it would be cool if they, if they made it more robust and made it more like part of your weekly kind of Mythic Plus rotation. We don't have any more details really than this yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is the kind of thing where, for me, once it was like, okay, well, when Shadowlands comes out, like they are probably going to do Legion Time Walking at some point during the course of this expansion, and that means Legion Dungeons, and Legion Dungeons mean Mythic Plus. So are they going to do Mythic Plus Time Walking? And I always thought, oh no, that's too wacky. They'll never actually do that, but they're doing at least some version of it, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, well, they've said specifically that the Legion Time Walking is basically going to run for 2 weeks. And the first time it runs within the game, it will then resume a regular 1 week schedule for the subsequent bonus event. So like that's going to be like an event that they promote. So there's a chance they're going to put more into it. We could see. They're going to improve covenant swapping. This means that, hey, FYI, once players have reached max renown, you will be able to freely switch to any of the 4 covenants without cooldown or restriction. The cosmetic rewards, including mounts and pets that have been earned through the covenant, will also be something that's just you're able to use depending on no matter what covenant you are. They're going to be attached to a particular covenant, which is another huge thing. The covenant.
Yeah, this is the ripcord being pulled. This is what, a thing that has been controversial since the day Shadowlands was announced. I think this is cool. This is not going to impact me on any level because I'm not going to pull my main out of Night Fae, and I'm not really going to play anything but my main substantially to the point where it matters. But I'm so glad that they're doing this for everybody that's felt the pinch or like wants to just collect everything, even if the gameplay is not really the motivating factor, because you just switch to your preferred covenant before raid time, and then the whole rest of the day you're out collecting mounts and pets and Mog or whatever. Like, it's great to see it. I think it's the right call. I do think there's something to be said for like making the covenant choice matter at the outset of the expansion. This is something you probably would like to see come in maybe 4 or 6 months down the road instead of, this patch will probably be about a year out from Shadowlands release. So that is kind of a long time to be, kind of trapped in that choice, like locked into that situation. But yeah, the back half of Shadowlands will be a lot more forgiving. You really just play it the way you want to play it.
Right. Yeah, the other fact of this is once you've reached that renown threshold on one character, your alts will then also be able to do it. So you only have to hit max renown on one character for this freely swappable covenant thing to apply to your entire account. So that's also very attractive. The other big thing they did is they're removing Conduit Energy. So basically the energy that is expended whenever you swap around the conduits inside of your Soulbind tree is now freely swappable. There's no more energy attached to it. You'll just be able to swap them without any restriction. So that's another thing that's making a lot of people happy. So glad to see that coming in.
Good riddance. Should have never been a part of the system.
Agree.
So.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, just this is overdue, and if we gotta wait for the patch, it's gonna be way overdue. I'm hoping they figure out a way to like hotfix it or something. But yeah, Conduit Energy stinks because you either ignore it entirely or it completely ruins your play style. It's one or the other. It doesn't create any tension. You either ignore it or it just sucks the fun out for you.
Yeah. And then as far as catch-up mechanics go, completing a Covenant campaign on one character will allow alternate characters the ability to skip that same Covenant's campaign, earning the renown and a third Soulbind unlock immediately without needing to replay the full narrative arc. So they're improving the skip that they currently have in to basically mean that you now don't lose anything when you do the skip. You're like there was a debate for, is it worth skipping the narrative arc because you're skipping so much renown when you skip that narrative arc.
Right.
So now they're fixing that. So it's now actually still very attractive and actually the better way to do it if you don't really care about playing through that story on your characters. So very glad to see that.
This is a kind of system where I think Renown works really well when it's brand new, right? And everybody, like the big chunk of the player base is all moving through it together and unlocking it, bit by bit together. It's not good when you have to catch up on 80 ranks. So any ways to streamline that, there in any MMORPG type of game, you have the concern of devaluing players' achievements or time investment, right? And it's like, well, I earned this renown, and now somebody else basically just logs in and they get caught up that fast. Like nobody actually cares about that in terms of renown, because renown is it's just a very happy face put on time gating, right? Like that's pretty much all it is. I mean, at this point, we're getting 2 ranks of renown a week. You're slowly powering up your Soulbinds, conduit rows to give you a little bonus to anything socketed in them. So it's very gradual. It's very incremental. It's not really tied to anything major. So yeah, I think for, Shadowlands year 2 and into, 10.0 or whatever is going to happen next year or maybe later, this is essential. You gotta be able to like grab a character that you want to play it, and become relevant and ready to play as quickly as possible.
Yeah, yeah. We already mentioned last week the new character customizations coming in, so just highlighting that fact again, that we're going to be getting some new character customizations and soul shapes and travel forms and that kind of fun stuff. The other big one is the Maw introduction is going to be skippable. So players who have completed the introduction to the Maw on one character will be able to skip. They basically just talk to High Lord Darian Mograine in the capital city, sort of in Oribos, to swap to for their alternate characters. So they don't have to actually skip on their alternate characters. So they don't actually have to play through that all again, which is great. We also mentioned last week the Island Expedition queue going solo, so they're highlighting that again. And then the talent and ability improvements. This is a big thing. This is the class balancing that we expect with a lot of these patches, and I expect for 9.1.5 it's going to be fairly substantial. They mention conduits, rune carving, covenant class, ability tuning, which are the three big things. Your covenants, your legendaries, and your covenant class abilities are like the big things that are going to get changes. I imagine there'll also be some ability things associated with that. So I think every class is kind of waiting with bated breath to see what that means for them. And what that means for their spec going into the next raid tier that'll be happening after this.
Yeah, they say improvements, right? So this means buffs for everybody. That's what I just
sure,
read.
yeah.
They're promising buffs for everybody.
That'd be great. Sure, let's go.
I think in some cases, you're probably looking at reworks for unpopular choices, right? Try to make them a bit more competitive and even it out a bit. I mean, a .5 patch should basically be a power upgrade across the board. It should be a quality of life improvement, and it should also power your characters up, or give you at least give you access to more power, so that you can continue to try new challenges out in the current content. We're not going to get new stuff to do when 9.1.5 comes out, right? Sanctum of Domination is still going to be the current raid when 9.1.5 comes out, but you hope with stuff like talent and ability improvements that you can kill that boss 15 seconds faster or whatever after this stuff starts to come in and kind of, bake a little bit, and people can take advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly. The additional travel points in the Maw, players will be able to take advantage of additional fast travel points from Venari's Refuge to Perdition Hold and Desmateron within the Maw. This Desmateron one, cool. I assume is going to be based off the raid, because that'd be great to be able to fast travel to the raid entrance.
What if it just goes right to like
the entrance
to Desmateron?
Which is like right next to the Korthia fast travel, so it doesn't actually do anything for you.
Right.
Yeah.
We really need a faster way to get to Sanctum. I'm kind of crossing my fingers that this is a short PTR cycle and that we're not waiting until like December for this thing, but I'm happy that they're improving all the stuff across the board. So I'm going to be playing it one way or the other. So, I'll take it when I can get it.
Yeah. As far as allied races go, Kulturian humans, Mechagnomes, and Dark Iron Dwarves all had a dungeon requirement to unlock them. You now no longer need to complete that quest associated with the allied races. You can choose to skip it instead, so you don't have to run that dungeon in order to unlock those allied races.
It's good stuff.
Good.
I'm not going to go on my anti-allied race rant. Right. It's been a while since I did one, but allied races are awesome in terms of like what they add to the game. The unlocks were mostly ridiculous beyond a certain point. So yeah, just people pay the money, let them play what they want to play.
Yeah. Remote Anima turn-ins, basically completing quests from Archivist Rosur, will provide access to an Anima diverter within Korthia, where Anima can be directly deposited. This is them going, hey, you know what? We recognize that we take up a lot of bag spaces. This will free up bag spaces for you. So, yeah.
Never in my wildest dreams were we getting something like this. Like, with as much time as I spend in Korthia, and as full as my bags get, and as little as I care about Anima at this point, and as much Anima as you tend to get from the quests and stuff, like, oh man, this is so nice. It feels really bad to kind of do that math, and you're like, all right, well, I guess let me go back to my bank and I'll drop some stuff off, and then I'll take the flight path out to my sanctum because the portal's one way, and then I'll drop this Anima off, and then I'll portal back, and then I'll come back to Korthia, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing. It's going to feel really good not to have to worry about that anymore, and to be able to just dump Anima in there as you go. This is a great change.
Yeah.
I would like even more. Like, let's put one like everywhere. Put one per zone. Put one in Oribos. Let's keep it going.
Yeah. This next one to me is someone's labor of love. All right. Somebody at Blizzard is a dev or a coder or community person or someone like was passionate about this. So transmogrification linking, all right? This is the write-up. Show off your complete transmog outfit to chat or online by easily sharing a link to it from the dressing room. Players will be able to mouse over these items to see how they can be collected if they've already collected the appearance, or if it's an appearance that is accessible to the character viewing it. So this is the, hey, check out my ugly transmog by linking it in chat, as opposed to someone trying to find, where are you? Let me find you in the, like, I gotta zoom in and try and look at this. Literally, you'll be able to link it. Someone can click on the link. It'll pop up in the dressing room. You can see what it looks like. And if you really want to, you can see where those pieces came from in case you want to do something that's mix and match. Go for it. So I think this is great. This is the type of little changes I look for in .5 patches, because this to me is like someone was like, you know what? I'm tired of having to find the person in my raid group and zoom in to try and look at it when they say, hey, look at my transmog. And they just ran with it. So I'm very pleased.
Yeah, but this level of polish on the transmog system, I think, is just fantastic. I don't know that I'm ever going to use this myself, but
it'll be used in your raids.
I'm also not like super serious about transmog, right? I like what I like, and I like it a lot, and I just kind of collect sets from the game, and then I mog into the ones that I like the most at any point in time. I don't really do custom stuff. I don't do, really kind of hard to find stuff or vintage stuff. I'm usually wearing stuff that's at least current to the expansion that I'm playing in at the time. But a lot of people out there take transmog a lot more seriously than I do, and this is a great tool to be able to share that stuff. Or hey, your mod looks really cool, can you link it to me? I want to make my own set, or make a variation on it. Like, such a great idea, and nothing I ever really would have thought of. I never would have, in any kind of brainstorming we do around the show or like in Discord or whatever, I'd never go, it'd be awesome if you could link your transmog set in chat. Like, that would never have crossed my mind.
Yeah, I'm there with you entirely. All right, alt leveling improvements. A variety of improvements will be introduced in support of a smoother experience leveling alternate characters through Shadowlands, such as an additional rank to heirloom upgrades. There's your heirloom answer to all the people who are asking about what's going on with heirlooms.
There you go.
And improvements to Threads of Fate, such as the addition of Torghast as an option, and renown gains for completing bonus objectives. Great. This is all also good stuff that I'm very happy to see. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, heirlooms, of course, don't give the XP bonus anymore, but they're also pointless to use in Shadowlands content. So, I assume that the rank will make them pretty favorable, especially if you're leveling a character from well below level 50 up through Shadowlands stuff.
Yeah.
And, some people may groan at this, but I actually think Torghast leveling is kind of a great option, because if you enjoy Torghast, right, it's a diverse enough experience that even though you're kind of doing the same stuff every run, there's some variety, and it's not the same thing. It's just doing the same bonus objectives or the same linear quests over and over and over again. And also, if they do this right, you'll be unlocking stuff that you need from Torghast as you go along, I would hope, at least to some degree. You have to do Torghast in the linear progression of Shadowlands, whether you like it or not. So if you bake it into the leveling, that could be really cool.
Yeah. As far as PvP gear adjustments, they have also basically decided that the lower item level PvP gear wasn't scaling high enough inside PvP situations, so it will now scale higher inside those situations to sort of reduce the power level gap, so that new characters can feel that they're more able to compete in battlegrounds and arenas more readily. So this change obviously isn't affecting high item level PvP gear, because it's already towards the cap or at the cap. This just brings up the lower stuff a little bit closer, so that the gap between being ultra geared in PvP and being I just started isn't so massive. It just makes it friendlier, which is always good to see.
Yeah, I mean, this patch will be decently far into this season, and it will probably be around for a while. So yeah, just having those kind of raising the floors up a little bit. Yeah, just giving people an entry point. I mean, they've gone about it in a variety of different ways over the years. This seems okay to me. People who are serious about PvP may feel differently, but I think if you have all the stuff that you want and you've been playing since the beginning of the season, if somebody comes in and the .5 patch and at least has a hand up to be able to attempt to enjoy the system, I think that's a win.
Yeah. Rune carving recipes will be increased. Their drop rate will be increased to 100% in any dungeon difficulty. So basically, if there's a chance that you get a rune carving recipe off of something, it will now 100% drop it. So you can just get all your recipes quickly that way, if that's something you're looking at doing, off of the particular dungeons and bosses that drop them. So bonus.
This is another thing that's like, why
wasn't
was
this
this
way?
not
Yeah.
just this? Yeah, like why did it ever work any different way? Like I
Yeah.
remember the first couple of weeks of Shadowlands being out and doing heroic dungeons, trying to get memories off of dungeon bosses, and it's just like, well, I guess I got to do this again. You know, it just didn't really make any sense. Considering that it's not like the memory is really the limiting factor in making the legendary item, right? It's just you need it, but just because you have it doesn't mean you can make the item. You got to do a lot of work to turn that memory into an item. So, yeah, just make the memories drop.
Yeah. And then last but not least, Battle for Azeroth Legacy loot rules are going to be coming into effect, meaning if you're running any of those old BFA raids or dungeons, if you're soloing them, the loot will now drop as though it's a 5-player dungeon. There's 5 people in it, or as though there's 20 people in the raid. So if you and 3 buddies are soloing your way through some BFA dungeons or raids, you will always get the maximum number of drops for those raid situations, which is great. So glad to see that change come in.
The time has come. Yeah. You know, there's some really cool MOG in BFA. And they also mentioned that they'd be making, you know, some tuning adjustments to make older content raids more friendly to solo or, you know, defeat with a smaller group than originally intended. So very cool change. Collecting stuff is a big part of what keeps the game vital. And like I know people are going to want to go into Mythic Battle for Dazar'alor for that dinosaur plate, man. So yeah, this is awesome. It's time. You know, we're about halfway through Shadowlands, and this is when they usually do this.
Yeah. All right. As far as hotfixes go that are currently going live in the game, players can now continue to give Rendell hats to complete Rendell's Big Day achievement after becoming his best friend. Clearly, that was a problem for those Venthyr players, so I'm glad that they fixed that achievement stuff. That makes me happy. They did do some changes to mana regen inside PvP, but the other thing they fixed up in PvP that people should be aware of is condensed Animasphere Conduit. Its effectiveness has been reduced by 50% in PvP combat for all classes. So that may not be your best conduit anymore in PvP. You'll have to check that out. Just trying to get that the healing that thing does in line, which makes perfect sense to me. As far as items and rewards go, Rune Carver Memories. This is ridiculous to me to begin with, first of all, right? Which required reputation with a faction to use, now instead require the reputation in order to purchase, allowing them to be used when obtained by the Chronicle of Lost Memories without having the required reputation. In other words, people were using this Chronicle to get the memories they didn't have, and they were getting one that they couldn't use or learn because they didn't have the reputation to use or learn it, which is silly. So I'm glad they fixed that.
Yeah, this is obviously just some kind of a tech oversight, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things that kind of converge around a system like, okay, you have this currency and you spend it to buy this item that then rolls a random item that's part of a collection that is one that you definitely don't have, right? Like there's a lot of stuff intersecting there. And yeah, I would imagine that the intention was not to like give you a thing that then inspires you to go grind rep, but it's just you know, a tech oversight, sounds like to me.
Yeah. Okay. The other big fix that I really wanted this to me was almost like a 9.1.5 change, but fortunately it's going live right now when it actually is more impactful. Shards of Domination. Okay. There are Shards of Domination slockets. Oh my God, sockets. My throat cracked in the middle of that. That was terrible. All right. Need some water after this, apparently. That don't have bonuses on them. So, you know, basically like your helm, your chest, and your shoulders are the ones that actually have when you equip this many of this gem type, you get this bonus. And there's a bunch that your boots and legs and belts and gloves and whatnot don't. So basically they decided that's dumb. It makes it really hard to get set bonuses unless you have those exact pieces, especially if you need, you know, if you wanted your Frost one and you had to get your shoulders to get it and you haven't killed the boss yet that drops the shoulders, that just feels bad. So they've added these bonuses to the other sockets. Basically, right now for cloth, the legs now have the blood bonus, the bracers now have the frost bonus, and the belt now has the unholy bonus. For leather, your legs now have frost, your gloves now have unholy, and your boots now have blood. For mail, your legs now have blood, your belt now has unholy, and your boots now have frost. And for plate, your legs now have frost, your bracers now have unholy, and your gloves now have blood. This basically means that people can get their bonuses easier and sooner, which I think is great. So I'm glad they changed that up.
This was awesome to see. I did not see this coming. This was a bit shocking last night when I saw this post come through. The Sanctum of Domination bonuses are extremely strong, especially once you get all of your shards that contribute to the bonus leveled up. In some cases, they're like shockingly strong. I think there's a huge benefit and a huge part of the power progression of this patch. This is what they want you to be working on and powering up. And unfortunately, the way loot works, and it really has to work in a game like this, like you can't just guarantee that people are going to get it from killing bosses and have everything that they want. It is a process, but if you don't have your bonus at this point, you're kind of falling behind, I would say, if you've been raiding regularly. So this gives you just some more options to mix and match and get 3 of those same colors socketed. A thing that's pretty funny here is like legs from the raid do not have dom sockets for like plate, for example. So I have a couple pairs of leg armor from the raid that I have kind of swapped in and out and around, and I hung on to them. This change is retroactive, so your existing loot is updated. You don't have to reacquire anything. And actually, I think you can use item restore if you had one of these slots that Spencer just outlined and you vendored them in hopes of finding something better. If you want them back, because now you can activate a domination shard bonus, check out item restore. But like the plate legs will activate the bonus, the frost bonus, but you can't actually put a domination shard in them. It's a little bit weird, but the whole domination socket and domination shard system is a little bit weird. So at least this opens it up a lot more, and people have a much better chance of being able to get their bonuses. It's not really going to help you if you don't have a shard that you still need, or if you don't have 5 sockets, in part because of what I was just kind of talking about. But if you can't get the piece that activates the bonus you want, this helps a lot.
Yeah. So I'm very glad that they put that fix in. And
you could say like, why wait 2 months for this, or
this is a creative solution to me.
Yeah, there's got to be something about the domination system that on the back end we are not privy to, like what's complicated about it, because it seems like there would have been different ways to make it like more streamlined for the player. It's the player facing side of it, I think, is very confusing. I'm not sure that this helps that. I think this just makes it even that much more complex, but it is more player friendly because you have more options to get your bonus activated.
Yeah. The other thing that we had talked about as a rumor, because I'd seen it sort of going around, was Anima and being able to transfer it from your main character to alts. Well, we have a little bit more information now, and basically it comes down to they plan on introducing a way to transfer Anima either to players' alts or to other covenants of the same character. And so they're going to increase the cap for now. Basically, the cap's going up to 200,000 Anima from the 35,000 that it was at. So that you can
a little
store
bit of
up,
an increase in the cap.
Yeah, you can store up and bank as much, up to 200,000 Anima, so that when they do finally put forward the ability to transfer Anima to alts or transfer it to another covenant, that you'll be able to just take full advantage of that. And so this is great. This makes me want to actually go back out and try and strive towards that 200,000 cap, so that I can then go, I'm going to unlock all of the things on all of the covenants. The only thing that'll hold me back is souls. So we'll see what happens with that, because that's going to be the only other
you can
thing.
get started on that now. And it sounds like there's going to be some changes coming to souls acquisition as well. A couple blue posts came out that didn't make press time for the show tonight, but it looks like souls, the time getting on souls is also going to get a little bit of a once over. But This is great, man. The only problem is I burnt 25,000 Anima on Korthite earlier yesterday before this post came out and the hotfix went in. Not that it really matters to me that much, but I think the cap at 35k in 9.1 was just way too low. You get so much Anima from playing the game. It just needed to happen.
Yeah.
Big takeaways, I think, for this stuff for planning ahead. Stick with a conduit now that you like and can play successfully, because you need to get to renown 80 before you can unlock the swapping benefits.
Again, he means covenant, not conduit. It's fine.
Yeah. I think I said covenant.
You said conduit.
I may not be enunciating very well.
Going.
Yeah, don't go swapping around right now thinking that you don't have any consequences. Right now, nothing has changed, and you will need to be renown 80 to take advantage of it. So hang in there with whatever covenant you're playing, or maybe if you really need to switch as soon as you can and get caught up to 80.
Right.
And upgrade all of your covenant sanctum stuff. Even the stuff that seems like it stinks or doesn't really impact you or you're not really going to have fun with, just do it. You'll be glad you did when 915 comes in, and then you can move Anima around between covenants or between alts on your account or whatever. Plus, you get the Anima modifiers as you buy more covenant upgrades. So that would be my advice: is just put the time into maxing this stuff out in 9.1, and then you just be able to reap the benefits when 915 hits.
Yeah. Okay, a couple more things to talk about. Mythic Dungeon International Season 2 is happening this weekend, so September 3rd to 5th on youtube.com/Warcraft. You can head on over and start watching that. We are back into for the next 3 weeks, we're into the weekly schedule. They're going to be doing Group A this weekend, and then on September 10th is going to start up Group B, 17th is Group C, and then we start moving into the finals, which will start up in October. So we're back into MDI season, so be sure you are checking that out if that's something you're interested in over on YouTube. And we have AWC Shadowlands Season 2, Week 4 happened this past weekend. And over in EU, Skill Capped is hanging on to the lead, followed closely by Horizon and then Method EU and Reload Esports. Although I will say that Horizon, Method EU, Reload Esports, and Creed are all like kind of close. Creed's a little bit farther down there away from Reload, but that second place is tight between these other teams. Anyone could overtake into second place. First place isn't out way in front. They're just out far enough in front that I think they're getting into that safety zone now. So it'll be curious to see what happens going forward in the future AWC weeks. We have in NA, we have Method NA, followed by Cloud9, Unitas Blue, and Golden Guardians. There's some fairly definitive difference between first, second, and third, but first and second are tied up. Method NA went 6-1, Cloud9 went 6-1, Method NA is 20-5, Cloud9 is 19-4. Like, they're right there.
And Cloud9 had that awful first week of Cups too, which they bounced all the way back from. These are the last weeks of, this past weekend was the last weekend of Cups for the season.
Yeah, we got the finals coming up.
So we got brackets out, and I mean, I don't know. I would say no huge surprises here at the way top four shook out. Cloud9, I think maybe them taking second place is actually a little bit surprising because they've been so strong the last few years now. But Method NA and Cloud9 have been very strong teams this season. Skill Capped has been incredibly strong in EU. So, I think when it comes to esports, like usually the best teams are the best teams for a reason, and they tend to play like it. And I think in the way AWC has shaken out the last couple expansions, it's definitely the case. So I don't see any really hugely surprising results in terms of how the brackets shook out for this season. But yeah, the finals will be coming up after we get through MDI groups. So yeah, a lot of esports in the fall here for WoW.
Yeah. And then the other thing we wanted to mention is there's actually a new 6-month promotion that's going on with WoW and Hearthstone. Basically, you can get yourself, you get 15 packs from a future Hearthstone expansion, along with 15 mercenary card packs, a tavern pass, and a battleground perk at a future date. if you do a 6-month sub, and that comes along with the Sapphire Skyblazer Blue Hawk mount and the Imp in a Ball toy that's out there, which are both World of Warcraft based. So if you're someone who's already subscribing for 6 months, don't be surprised if you see a little gift icon on your launcher, so you can get some extra in-game stuff. Because that's one of the perks of doing the 6-month sub, is you get these things, as part of the sub.
Yeah, they did the Hearthstone team did a big presentation today for the new game mode, which is single player focused, but has a PvP component. As just a long time Warcraft fan and somebody who has kind of appreciated Hearthstone's reverence for Warcraft 3 and kind of adherence to some of the concepts of Warcraft 3, it looks really cool to me. I'm a bit of a casual Hearthstone player, but I certainly enjoy the game, and I'm always interested in new single player ways to play it. And they also announced a cool crossover promotion. When that comes out in October, if you play through the intro, basically, of the Mercenaries mode, it's called, you unlock a new mount in WoW. It's Sarge, who's the mouse that's like the pet companion familiar of Hearthstone Brew, the innkeeper.
Nice.
So it's really, really nice looking mount, and it's free. There's no buy-in necessary for Mercenaries that we know of. I mean, there's stuff you can buy, but
it's like the Hearthsteed. Was that mount that came out?
Yeah, it's very similar to the Hearthsteed promotion, where it was like play X number of games in ranked mode, and you have to win 3 games or whatever, and you get a mount. Like, they haven't done stuff like this in years, so it's so cool to see. They're doing a Diablo crossover. They're doing a bunch of co-promotion with WoW and WoW Classic, and also just doing a promo mount. I mean, the last time we saw a promo mount in WoW from another game was like when they were trying to get Heroes of the Storm off the ground, I feel like. So it's been quite a few years. I'm glad to see it. I mean, I'll definitely be playing the new Hearthstone stuff. I'll obviously be playing WoW, and having new mounts and stuff to check out is always cool.
Yeah, how Diva's mech never made it into WoW as a mount, I will not know. That would have been a fantastic mount. You just put it inside the shredder frame and off you go, man.
Yeah, you could do something with that. Yeah.
I guess we still have a little bit of time, so I want to mention a blue post that popped up this past week from Kyvax, which talks specifically about the Sylvanas encounter, because basically they admit, they go, we apologize for an oversight, which is we've been working hard to understand what these lag issues are on the Sylvanas encounter, but we overlooked telling you that we're working hard to fix this. So in the future,
right.
they plan to be better at letting us know that they are actually paying attention to the issues that we're complaining about. So I appreciate that from a feedback perspective. But yeah, the two highlighted points on the fight, one is right on pole, there's a huge lag spike that creates a lot of issues for a lot of players because their openers are so important, and damage in that first phase is also very important. And it can make you end up standing in something you didn't mean to. And they basically realize that there's just a high amount of calculations happening on that encounter with all of the different mechanics that she has in that opening window, and that's creating a few seconds of server lag. And they're working on ways to fix that, but they also don't want to change fundamentally how the encounter works or timers or calculates or anything like that. So they are trying to find a solution to that. So for now, that lag's going to remain, but at least they know what's causing it, and they're trying to find a creative solution to it. The other factor that's coming in here lag-wise is basically a lot of the abilities that she does as a character that we're fighting, as a boss that we're fighting, involves sort of the servers reaching out and checking in with the player and then reaching back to the servers. And they do that a lot for a lot of her different abilities. And so there's so much draw on the player's game client for this particular boss that it can create lag situations as well, was the other thing they sort of discovered. Is that just because of all of this messaging that's happening between the servers and the players' computers during the encounter, it can create these weird lag issues that some players experience. So they are trying to find some other solutions to that. However, they feel like there is a hardware improvement that they could make. So they made that improvement. So some of that messaging should be much better this week, which means that this week there should be less issues with the encounter later into the encounter that some people were experiencing. So I'm glad they were looking at it. I'm glad they're trying to find solutions to it. That is a fight where I know numerous raid teams just were set back in progression just because they got to a lag spike, something went wrong, someone died, and you need everyone live, so you had to wipe. And it just happened over and over and over again. So resolving this is a big deal. I think catching this in the future is another very large deal because no one wants another boss like this ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because you want to make interesting mechanics and have bosses do interesting things and create, unique challenges for players, but you have the tech side behind it all the time. And there's some interesting details in that post about how like their internal diagnostics didn't even register that there was any kind of an issue.
Because there's no lag. The messaging isn't actually lagging. It's sending the messages out. The issue is it's sending them out so frequently it lags the client. So the person's computer lags down, which is odd.
Yeah, it's these are difficult things to kind of you want the fights to be cool, right? So you have to do unique stuff. I mean, Sylvanas is a long time coming as a boss, so they obviously gave her some different flavor, but you got to make the game work too. And I mean, I think there are good reasons to keep some stuff behind the curtain, but it was nice to see this communication and to just hear about like the root of the issue and the struggles they had diagnosing it and what the kind of plan going forward is. That's really cool to see.
What I thought was funny is I even said this to my raid team when we were working on Mythic Sylvanas. I think this lag at the start is just caused by the sheer amount of calculations with the amount of stuff going on. And I had two different people who are not server engineers, but they're developers go, no, I mean, this is all just easy math. There's no way that's what's causing this. And I was like, pretty sure. Because we've had it before. There's been numerous times where certain abilities interact so frequently that it creates a large amount of numbers for the server to handle, and that we get this lag chunk. So it doesn't surprise me that ended up being the problem at the top of that fight. That's what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, the Windrunner ability is so weird, right? Like that's got to create all kinds of problems with making clients agree with each other about where everything is in the room, and
Well, and you throw in Domination shards, which is a whole other chunk of calculations happening. You have legendaries with another chunk. You have covenant abilities with another chunk. All of that layered on top of the opener, which causes all of your trinkets to proc, all of your abilities that can proc will proc, because it's all of the there's no internal cooldown that's been hit yet. So the top of the fight is going to be the most calculations in the entire fight that are going to happen.
Everything is just turning on all at once.
Exactly. All right, with that, we're going to play a quick sounder for our patrons, and we'll be right back. Hi everyone, I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. Today, I'm going to give a special shout out to A Cookie, Arajian, Bubdoos, Bob, Celian, Claiborne, Deacon, Jeff, Caleb, Kapawi, Matt, Mibble the Mighty, Shorel, Tressel, Trey, and Xerxes. Thank you. This sounder is for you. Our Patreon is located over at patreon.com/thestartingzone. And a big thanks to our newest patron, Timo R, or Timo R, or Tim O. I
think Timo probably.
Timo? Or are we with Timo? All right. I just know Timo from League of Legends is Teemo, so I'm assuming it's Timo. Timo R and Ryan S.
Not sure if that applies, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We really appreciate all the support for the show. And this month, I was telling Jason, this month alone, we actually had to up our upload rate for episodes because we put out so many episodes in August that we had to spend an extra $10 just to make sure we can get this episode uploaded today for you all, which is great. So I really appreciate how the patron funds go towards supporting the show, supporting our hosting, supporting the redesign, supporting everything that we do with the show. So thank you again to all of our patrons.
Absolutely. And thanks for checking in with us for the patron call-in Q&A last Saturday. That is one of the episodes that we needed to host for this month. So thanks everybody that called in or contributed a question or just checked out the show. And thanks patrons for keeping it going around here.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. All right, folks, if you've enjoyed this episode of The Starting Zone, consider heading on over to your iTunes, your Apple Podcast, and leaving us that 5-star review. They really help out our show, and we love hearing reviews written by our listeners. Here's one that comes in from Vanish Sam, or Vanish Sam. I don't know which way you'd prefer it. I hope I said it correctly. Anyways, entitled Amazing Podcast. I have been playing WoW. So I've been playing World of Warcraft since Cataclysm when I was in high school. Now that I'm grown up, although if you were in high school in Cataclysm, I feel old, but that's fine.
You feel old. I'm crumbling to dust.
He says, I work at a Porsche dealer as a mechanic/technician. So you have a really cool job, I have to say. That's a lot of fun. I love really practical work. When I was working in theater full time, I really dug working on building and fixing things. So I appreciate your mechanic / technician work for sure. And do auto racing in my free time. So I rarely have time to catch up on World of Warcraft. You should meet our friend Garrett, who also loves cars and loves auto racing. He is another content creator out there. So feel free to check out some of Garrett's stuff too. If you're into Hearthstone, he does some pretty awesome stuff over there with Angry Chicken. All right. Says, I really appreciate the news and information you guys give because I always find out stuff I have no idea about that ends up enhancing my experience in the game in a big way. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you very much, Vanishazam. I think it's Vanishazam. Let's go with that. I like that.
Maybe, yeah, sure. Vanish.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vanish,
Yeah,
for writing in.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing that we love to hear about the show because I think we try to inject this stuff into the show, right? We want you to think of stuff to go find and do in the game and to enjoy yourself and find what elements of it work for you and that you have fun with. So that's why we highlight stuff the way that we do or try to like include it in the conversation. So when we hear that it's working for somebody and that it's enhancing their time in WoW, like I'd love to hear it, man. It's really great. So thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, I always love getting 5-star reviews like this. I also love just hearing from people. So if you're someone who also just wants to reach out and let us know how you're doing, maybe you've already left us a 5-star, you can find sort of the regular conversation around the Starting Zone at thestartingzone.com/discord. So you can check that out as well. You basically just go to that link and then you just click on the join Discord and it'll pop you into our invite into our server. So feel free to hop in there and join the conversation on a daily basis if you want. That's going to wrap up episode 474 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If you want to contact the show and leave us your feedback or ask a question, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com or reach out to us on Twitter or, like I just said, startingzone.com/discord. If you want to get your hands on some TSE gear, you can find that over at tpublic.com/stores/thestartingzone. You can check out all the sweet designs we have on shirts and mugs and stickers. I would also say a great way to get to that site that I just read that might be like, oh, what did he just say? Go to the show notes. Go to startingzone.com, go to the show notes, click on the button there. That's our affiliate link, which means that anything you do on TeePublic will help support the show. So thank you very much for using that as well. Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
Best place to find me is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald, always talking whatever I'm getting into in and around WoW and other stuff. So come say hello.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot one last thing. TeePublic's doing a sale starting on September 2nd. So if you are looking to buy something off of our store or any store on there, wait till September 2nd. You'll be able to hop on there, get some discounted stuff, and pick up what you're looking to get. If you're trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD. And with that, for Jason and myself, thanks for listening, and job's done.